the Almighty Lord will continue to protect you and guide you and meet you at the point of your need, even though I don't know if you still need something.
Hi, welcome everyone. The political landscape in Nigeria is getting busy once again because of next year's presidential election. There are many candidates vying for Nigeria's highest office. Many are buying 100 million naira forms to signify their interest. That's how politics works. Many buy these forms to secure themselves a good bargaining power because they know they won't win the primary elections, but they just buy the form anyway. It's a kind of donation to the party. So even if the candidate withdraws from the primaries at the last minute, he definitely will be considered for other positions like governorship in his state or minister if the party eventually wins the presidential election. Among the many candidates that have signified interest to run for the office of the president is Tinubu. Tinubu has paid his dues in politics. He has been a senator, a two-time governor, and right now he's one of the front runners. There are many who believe that the primary elections in APC is Tinubu's to lose because of his vast influence in the party. But the history of Nigeria elections is strongly against Tinubu, although there's a huge chance that the history of Nigeria elections will not affect Tinubu based on one important factor, an individual. But we will see that factor later. For now, let's discuss the history. While we're at it, subscribe to our channel if you haven't and enable notification. Thanks. Past elections in Nigeria are fraught with many instances where people in power manipulate the system to ensure that their preferred candidate wins the election. No billionaire has ever become the president of Nigeria. It is always dark horses that emerge as flag bearers of political parties. Even when billionaire and vastly influential MKO Abiola succeeded in being on the ballot and winning the election, it was annulled by the military regime of Babangida. People who were not even in contention before the primaries always turn out to be the winners of the primaries. After Obasanjo's tenure elongation agenda was truncated, he made sure to actualize the tenure elongation through an imposed candidate of his choice. Late Umaru Musa Yar'Adua was that candidate, and he wasn't even among the frontline candidates before the April 2007 presidential elections. In fact, there was news around the time that Yar'Adua will go back to Ahmadu Bello University as a lecturer after completing his term as the Katsina State Governor. Obasanjo wasn't having it. He needed someone that he can push around. Not just the president, he needed to control many people in government, because he also chose the vice presidential candidate for Yar'Adua. After winning the primaries with 3,000 votes against Richard Okorocha's 300 and something votes, Yar'Adua nominated Goodluck Jonathan as his running mate. So in this instance of Nigeria's election history, all the frontline candidates, Peter Delay, Donald Duke, Richard Okorocha, and many others didn't make it as presidential candidate or vice presidential candidate for that matter. People who weren't ready for the job, they didn't have any interest, but they were drafted to occupy positions they weren't prepared for. It was funny watching Obasanjo campaigning for Yar'Adua, where he called him on telephone Umoru in his hospital bed in Germany. So these are the reasons why Nigeria is not developing at the pace that it's supposed to. Because when you make a job offer, people that are looking for jobs will apply for the position. You don't bring people who didn't apply for the job to take the position, you know. So will the same thing play out for Tinubu? There's a factor that shows it might not be the case. But let's continue. We will get to the factor in a moment. The power play that happened before PDP's primary election in 2006 was the same strategy the military used in 1998 to make Obasanjo the flag bearer of PDP for the presidential election. Obasanjo had just come out of prison, and no one knew that among all the frontrunners in PDP that Obasanjo will eventually emerge the flag bearer and go on to win the presidential election. The former vice president Alex Ekwueme was influential in PDP as Tinubu is today in APC. In fact, he was even more influential because he led the G34 that later became PDP. The G34 that he led confronted Abacha when it became obvious that he wanted to become a civilian president. A lot of people think that the position was ceded to the Southwest because of the annulment of June 12, 1993 election, but it wasn't that alone. The military just needed someone they could trust. That person could have come from anywhere in the South. At the time, the military had been in power since 1984 and political activity was suspended. The only political activity was the elections that was annulled by the IBB regime and the non-party basis local government election in 1996 during the Abacha regime. So the military needed someone they can trust, someone that can protect their interests, and it took time for the military to convince Obasanjo to run because he was still stigmatized by his prison experience. And worst of all, he was broke. How do you become a candidate in a presidential election where you don't have money? Elections cost money, you know. When they assured Obasanjo that money wouldn't be a problem, he accepted after denying about 3 times in press interviews that he had no interest in the presidency. On the other hand, the frontline candidate of the PDP, Ekwueme, couldn't bring himself to negotiate with the military. He felt that it goes against all he stood for, all his principles. He couldn't imagine giving legitimacy to the military as opposed all the years. Did Ekwueme miss a chance of becoming the president? We will never know. Ekwueme was a principled man and his principles sometimes made him inflexible. Politics in general is all about flexibility, negotiations, consensus, and many other things to get the result. When Babangida demanded to see Ekwueme, he refused to meet him. He didn't want to give IBB the leverage of feeling that he is relevant in the scheme of things. He felt he had what should matter in an election. He was wealthy and could finance the presidential election. He also had what he thought was behind him, the party machinery. In politics, you should negotiate with everyone, even if it's obvious they are against you. Maybe we would have gotten a different result if he had negotiated with the military. He would have used other options to go around his principles, like making it look like an accident or a chance meeting with IBB, you know. He should have set up a meeting at a neutral ground to make it look like he bumped into IBB, not an appointment in his mansion in Minna to negotiate political power. Maybe, just maybe, he would have succeeded. Godfathers, military, or whoever that is behind the scene controlling or deciding who becomes the president is very dangerous for our country. The electorate should always decide who becomes the president at all levels, from party primaries to presidential elections proper. Look at all the bright minds that have shown interest in becoming the president of Nigeria, and at the end of the day, an unknown person will emerge from nowhere. It should never happen. The boat has sailed with Nigeria's history. Unknown individuals should never emerge as flag bearers for any party. Party officials or delegates should ensure that the vote they cast for a candidate is based on their belief that the candidate is capable of turning things around, not based on monetary inducement. Democracy should deepen in Nigeria so as to promote good governance. And good governance means more prosperity and economic boom. A roll call of the bright minds that have lost the chance of becoming the president, not by the electorate, but because of people pulling the strings behind the scene. They include Alex Ekwueme, who was a very intelligent individual. He was successful and well educated. He had 7 degrees in different disciplines. Another intelligent person was MKO Abiola. He too was successful and intelligent. He won the election, but IBB annulled the election because he didn't want him to become president. So you can imagine what Nigeria lost in terms of development if these individuals had succeeded in becoming Nigerian president. Nigeria should have benefited from their knowledge if people didn't pull the strings. So this is why this time around, no unseen hand should pull any string. Let the best candidate win at all levels so that Nigeria can benefit from the knowledge of the best candidate. As you can see from the past, Nigeria election history is against Tinubu. This is not a campaign for Tinubu or anyone, but bright minds taking leadership positions should always translate to a better country. Tinubu is an influential, experienced politician, and he doesn't look like someone who can be controlled or pushed around. And considering his views on many issues like true federalism and others, would that be a red flag for people who want to maintain the status quo? Now, let's see the factor that will enable Tinubu to scale through the APC presidential primaries. The main factor that will stop Tinubu or the best candidate from winning the APC presidential election is, wait a minute, Why Tinubu is used as a reference in this video is because he is obviously the frontrunner in the primaries. And historically, frontrunners don't become flag bearers. So he perfectly fits the narrative in the video. The person that can prevent the best candidate from emerging in the APC presidential primaries is Buhari. No matter the side you belong, you will agree that elections conducted under the Buhari administration are vastly better than those conducted under Obasanjo. Many governors recovered their stolen mandates in elections that were conducted during the administration of Obasanjo. The likes of Peter Obi, Adams Oshiomhole, etc. all recovered their mandates through the court. Buhari has shown little interest in imposing candidates either during party primaries or rigging in general elections. Opposition parties have won elections under Buhari, which was unthinkable under Obasanjo. Edo State governorship election is still fresh in memory, where Obaseki defected to PDP and won the election. That would have never ever happened under Obasanjo. So if Buhari continues to maintain neutrality as he has done before, then the best candidate will emerge, the flag bearer of APC. This neutrality should also apply in the main opposition party, PDP, so that the best candidate can emerge as the flag bearer, so that the two best candidates will face off in the presidential election where Nigerians will choose the best among the two. If you enjoy this type of political analysis, you know what to do. Like the video, subscribe to our channel and enable notification so that you will be notified when new videos go live. And more videos like this will be coming as the 2023 presidential election approaches. Thanks for watching.